my aunt, she came down and she picked my sister, my oldest sister, because at that time, my mother had 3 girls and 1 boy. So she came and picked me up and the sister and brought us to Chicago. We came to Chicago. You know, we didn't have shoes. We only wore shoes on special occasion. So I got up here and I had the shoes. First thing I did was pull the shoes off. My grandmother said, "Boy, what's wrong with you? You put those shoes back on." I said, "Well, you know, I have to keep them for Sunday." She said, "You wear shoes every day here." My grandmother always said, "You don't fight nobody. If they hit you on this cheek, you turn the other cheek." I wasn't accustomed to nobody hit me, and I'm going to turn a cheek. So as we was in grammar school, they had a little game. This game had me running every day from school. I had my sister's hand, and I'm running so fast, her little feet was up off the ground. So one day in the summertime, or the spring, it had to be spring, I went up there. I didn't care what my grandmother said. I'm not afraid. I went up there, about 4 or 5 boys up there. I said, "Well, who's the captain of this game thing here?" This little dude said, "I am the captain." I said, "Well, I came up here to fight you." I said, "I'm not fighting. I'll fight you one at a time. I can't fight all 4 of you." Oh, he jumped up. I whipped that poor little boy so bad. The boys say, "How would you like to be our leader?" I said, "No, all I want to do is go to school. My sister and I, we back and forth. We went to, the school was full of school. That was the name of it. That was at 42nd and St. Lawrence, yes. And from that point on, everything was nice. You know, I graduated from grammar school, then I went to high school, Wendell Phillips High School. I was there when that King Cole was there. When I got drafted, I was in high school. You know, you get your draft card. I lost my draft card 3 times. The 3rd time, they asked me, I went to get a new card, and the lady said, "What's your name?" I told her. She said, "What are you doing home? You should have been over there in Germany with the 99th. I said, "The 99th? The German wiped them out." The German did pretty bad, though. That was a black unit. I said, "Thank the Lord." That they thought I was in the service. So when I left, I told about it. It wasn't a good week before they called me, "You go into the military." So I went in at Fort Sheridan. From Fort Sheridan, I went to Wichita Falls, Texas. That's the air base down there. We started there. Now, that is where we had problems because, you know, the blacks over here and the whites over here. They had the movie theaters. We would go to the movies. The blacks sit up top, the white down on the bottom. So one day, you know, all the boys from the north, they shipped them south. The south, they shipped them north. So anyway, we was there. We got together. We closed the theaters down because we wasn't accustomed of just sitting in a certain area. And the commander there, he came to ask us, well, this is our custom. We said, the theaters is not going to open. We had 3 theaters. Nobody went to the theater. They stayed closed for about 2 weeks or so. Finally, they opened it and said, you can sit any place you want. We broke that up. We went to Tampa, Florida. And I stayed there for training. That's where I learned. Since I couldn't be a pilot, they put me into communication. Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt you. I want to know what year it was, and I want to know why you couldn't be a pilot.
The year was 45. The reason I couldn't become a pilot because I hadn't finished my high school. I passed the examination. Wasn't no problem because the commander, whoever it is, he said, you pass. He said, we haven't had a person, I know what he wants to say, like you that could come in here and go through this and pass all of this and then finish high school. So from that point, the next thing he said, how would you like to become a paratrooper? I said, no, sir. I said, I'm jumping out of a plane and people shooting up there. I'm dead before I hit the ground. And which a lot of paratroopers did. So he said, well, that's when he put me in communication. Just before Japan surrendered, we was packed. We had everything. They had the planes warming up. Now, this is the time we was going to jump out of the planes. And they came back and said, it's cancer. They surrendered. Because it was at night. We was going to leave that night from Florida. So we went by boat. We was going on the boat. I guess it was a storm. Something happened. It says kaboom. They put all the blacks in the bottom of the ship. Yeah. The whites up top in case a torpedo hit it. We the first one to be killed. So we had this little white lieutenant. So whatever happened, it said, boom! He had on a life jacket. Instead of him going up, he grabbed another life jacket, put it on, and went further down in the ship. We just laughed at him.
He went the wrong direction.
Yes, he was supposed to went up, but he went down. When I got to Japan, I got off the ship. They put me in a trucking outfit, And with the trucking outfit, it was still dangerous because we had to be hauling ammo, food, and all that stuff. So one night, they got all the truckers together, and we was loaded with bombs, and you name it. Ooh, man, we was driving them trucks at night. I mean, flying dust. All you can do is keep up behind the other truck. And this was in Japan. And finally, I came back. We got back. And they came and asked us, who all wants to go back into the Air Force? I was the first one to raise my hand. God, I know things was going to be better because in the Air Force, we ate better. We had better combination, all of that. Sleeping, bunks, you know. It was just a whole lot of different things. We used to go up in Tokyo. See, the first place I landed was in Yokohama. And then when I left Yokohama to go to the air base, then we came down and they built this airport, Haneda. That's where I was stationed at. That's not too far out of Tokyo. When we came home, things was much different. At that time, we got on the boat. We was together. It wasn't no segregation. White and black was together. We ate on the ship, you know, and
What year was that, and why do you think that happened?
I guess maybe the things started happening to me, maybe in Japan, when we as blacks didn't want to take what was being happening. See, because the whites was going around telling the young women that the blacks had tails, you know. And when we would go with a girl, first thing she'd be looking for, I said, "What are you looking for?" "I'm looking for your tail." I pulled my pants down and say, "Look, do you see a tail?"
Someone else told me that story too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure, they did. They was getting the Japanese to go against us.
But coming home on the boat, you said it was now integrated?
It was
And
integrated.
it wasn't, so who made that decision, and why do you think that happened?
I don't know who made that decision when we got on the boat to come back home. You know.
How did you feel about that?
Oh, I felt great. I didn't have to be down there, as they say, in the dungeon. When I got home, I tried to go back to school. I did. I went back to school for a while. And I was in the wood shop. And these two people, teachers, I shouldn't say people, teachers, they, I was telling them about my rights and the rest of us right there. They laughed at me, you know. Good thing I could take things. I was easy, you know. Because I figured if I hit one of these teachers, I may go to jail. Because he was wrong, yeah, telling me. He telling the other one, "Did you hear what he said? His right." Sure, I figured I had a right. I had a right to go put my life on the line. I have a right to speak my piece. And I still do that today. If you don't believe it, you ask her. I've always been a talker, yes, and I still raise a little hell.
You've been active ever since you got home.
Oh
Tell me about some of the things you've done and what you're proudest of.
I'm proud of when I married her. I came over there. There was drugs on the block, and I couldn't stand that. I had to get that drug off the block. I went out there, started with those boards on the corners and in front of the houses. The neighbors would tell me, "You're gonna get killed out here." I say, "No, I'm not gonna get killed out here. There's a way you have to talk to these boys." if they want to call you names and use profanity, don't fall for that trap, you know. So, which they did. And I would walk away and say, young man, have a good, blessed day, and walk on back to the house. And they start on the corner. I get out there, you can't stand here. They move here. You can't stand here until I get them completely off the block. That is where it's so quiet over. So now, some of the young men, they grew up, they have families now. They say, Mr. Ferba, you do a great gesture for us. Say, if it wasn't for you, Mr. Ferba, we don't know what would happen. Say, you didn't scold us like cussing at us and all of this stuff. You were showing us the right path. I say, yes.
So some of those kids on the corner that you talked to have come back, grown up to talk to you.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
No wonder you're proud of that.
Yes.
If you could walk into a classroom of kids and guide them in some way or tell them something you've learned to help them in the future, what would you say to them? What would you say to those kids?
I would say to those kids, listen, you must listen to your parents. If your parents is the type of parents that doesn't give a hoop about what's happening, you find someone that will show you the right path. You may not like it, but you listen and you will learn something and you will be a better person. My grandmother, she was a teacher. She was, but for me and being helped, I believe I did more helping for myself. I really do. Because I watch, I listen at things, and I read things. I still read a little bit now, but not as much as back in those days. Yes. And I talk with the friends that I came up with. We are the same. They give. We all gave. We didn't take. See, because when I was a youngster working, the little kids didn't have too much. When I got payday came, I got all the kids in the block, a little confection store. I taken them in there, get whatever you want. I'm paying for this every payday. They look for me. Yes.
When you were talking about what you would say if you were talking to kids, you said, listen to your parents. If you don't have parents who can guide you properly, find somebody that can.
Right.
And what you're saying to add to that is that if you can't find that person, find it inside yourself.
That's right.
Which is what you did.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you do.